Hello. If you're in the chat, can you send a message if you can hear me? Because last time my mic wasn't working. Send a message if you can hear me. If not, then something's wrong. Let me invite you, Juan, to speak. How do I do this? Or Juan, can you request to speak or request to come to the stage? All right, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
All right.
I'm gonna text the other guy.
We'll wait a little bit for people to get in here.
Alright.
For everyone who's just joined, we are waiting on the last person, and we'll start either when they join or at 7.
Either way.
Let me see. What was his username again? Okay. I'll look for that. Can someone in the chat, or someone in the audience, can you send something in the chat just to make sure that you can hear us or hear me? Just say like, I can hear you or something. Okay, cool. Last time it took like 10 minutes for me to be able to hear myself. For anyone who just joined, we're waiting on the last person, the third person to join.
Let me just give him a call real quick.
Alright. Let me make sure that I am recording. Yes, I am recording. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So he's doing an oil change on his truck. He's topping it off right now, so he'll be on it in a bit.
Alright, so I'm guessing he won't be able to join.
No, he's gonna join.
Okay.
Just a little late.
Alright, well, we can just start now then. So I'm gonna basically just give a quick... Actually, we'll wait till 7. Should we wait? I don't know. I don't think anyone's gonna join.
Yeah, just wait.
We'll just wait till 7 just to give him some extra time.
You can even wait 5 minutes after. It's fine. Let more people join in if they are.
Mm-hmm.
I'd suggest also send a message in general at everyone.
Let me see. I think we could just start at 7, and when he joins, he'll join.
Alright.
Where's my thing? Alright. You good to start, Juan?
Hey everyone, my name is Juan. I'm a test engineer at Northrop Grumman. I graduated from Florida International University with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. My concentration included dynamics of thermal fluids. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
free to answer all questions.
and I'll give a quick rundown of the way this is going to work. So we already introduced ourselves from about now to I'd say 7:50 or just whenever questions run out. We'll be answering questions from the audience, so everyone who's in here. So if you want to ask questions, then request to speak, and I'll invite you up. And I'll just go in the order of who requested. So first come, first serve. And if no one ends up requesting to speak, then we'll go to the VC questions, which is basically the questions that were asked ahead of time. And also, if you are someone who's shy and doesn't want to come up here and speak, you can just ask your question in the VC questions channel, and we'll get to it eventually toward the end. But if you do come up to speak, we'll answer like multiple of your questions. So if anyone wants to request to speak, then do that now, and I'll add you up if you have any questions. If not, I'll go to the VC questions. Okay, so far no one has requested to speak, so we will. Juan, basically what's gonna happen is I'm going to read out the questions, and then we can both answer them.
Okay, cool. Feel like an interview.
All right, I'll start with the first one, and like I said, if anyone wants to request to speak, then do that, and I'll add you up. Let me go to. Okay. The first question is, what's one misconception about mechanical engineering careers that new students often have?
Just one. I got a couple.
Just as many as you have.
All right. First misconception I would say is probably thinking that as soon as you get your role and you start working, you're going to be doing massive amounts of math and engineering. The reality is, at first, you do a lot of training, like months of training and reading, and then they give you probably like the easy work. They get your head around it. Again, it varies by position, obviously. If you're doing analysis and simulation, you'll probably be doing a little bit more math than another position. I have a buddy that did he's currently in Pratt Whitney. He's doing manufacturing engineering, and at first it was slow, and then you start actually doing real engineering. But again, one of the biggest misconceptions that you're actually math that you learned in school. I think after being at the company for over a year, I've used 15% of the math I learned.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably saying a lot. It's probably a lot less than that. If you have a position like, for example, um, you're doing a lot more CAD work or design, there's a little bit of math. I think a good example is like if you're working on a system in which requires a spring, for example, you're going to have to calculate, spring constants. Think about thermal if the system has any type of thermal and stuff like that. But most of the time, analysis are the ones that give you the numbers, and then you design off of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a position in which you're doing analysis and simulation, you're going to be doing math, but most of it is like MATLAB,
Mm-hmm.
Automated math through code.
Also,
So,
really quickly, Diego, I know you're in here. I know you wanted to ask. You can request to speak if you want to ask, like in person, like with your voice and stuff.
cool.
There's
So yeah,
this.
I guess
There's,
that is
yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
one. Yeah, like I said, if you're doing mostly analysis or simulation role, you will be doing some kind of math, but most of it is just knowing the basics of engineering.
I think the
Just
same
knowing.
goes for internships. Like anyone in the audience who might be wanting to do internships or has already done it, there's a lot of people who think that you need to take the higher level classes to be able to do internships, and that's as at least for mechanical engineering, especially design related jobs, that's not really true. My internship, I do zero math whatsoever. It's all just CAD and design, and that probably goes for a lot of other fields as well.
Yes, it's mostly knowing the concept. You know the background, and you know, for example, you know heat transfer, you know thermal, so you have the gist of what the system and how it works. But most of the math is computer. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just need to know the functions, the formulations, more or less what the system might look like, or how a force might move, and interpret it that way. Like interpret what the outcome that the computer is getting.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's not as difficult as you might think.
Yeah. All right. The next question is, how did you land your first mechanical engineering role, and what would you do differently if you were to restart?
Would this be like internship or full time?
Um, if you had any internships, yes, and then I'd say answer it again for like full time. But I'd assume mostly internships since these are all
Okay,
students.
cool. So in terms of internship, back when I was in school, I didn't have the best of luck because the first 2 years I didn't wrap my head around how to study.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was used to just walking into class, remembering everything, understanding how things work, going into the exam without studying and just passing it. That was just me in high school. Never studied. And then in college, I struggled because I never learned how to study. So, I got a friend group, learned how to study, and I actually started getting good grades. But my first 2 years, I started applying like everybody does. And I did not land not a singular internship in my first 2 years. Um, the way I got my internship was through word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So I just networked and talked to every student in every single class, talked to professors, did everything I could to at least, even try to get a lab position, a research position. I couldn't even get that. But within my friend group, somebody had landed small company position in which one of the actual students in one of our classes owned a NDT shop. So basically, he would repair and also modify and sell parts for aircrafts. And he was doing like a side project that was contracted in which we had to build a system for um, for a certain machine. It is under NDA, so I can't really go into too much
Mm-hmm.
detail. But so the word of mouth, I kind of got recommended for the position. Talked to um, the person that owned the shop, which was in my class, and we studied together all the time. And that's how I landed my position through networking.
Mm-hmm. I'll
Um,
also answer the question really quick. I agree
yeah,
with you that networking is one of the most important things, especially for your first role. Because the way I landed my internship as someone who just finished their, also whoever just said in the chat, yes, I will be recording it and posting it to YouTube and then pasting the link in here. But the way I landed my first internship was literally just through networking with a whole bunch of people, especially on LinkedIn and looking at local engineering firms or companies or startups, because as a freshman you'll have a hard time getting into a lot of the more competitive things simply because you haven't taken the classes that are necessary. Because earlier I did say that you don't need to take all of the advanced classes, but for the more advanced internships you kind of do, because there's a lot of technical questions that will be asked of you. And so what I did is I basically just looked on LinkedIn for all the local smaller companies and then requested to connect with all of the mechanical engineers there, since that's what I'm doing. And I just asked to speak with them and came with the intent of literally just learning from them, not even with the intent of getting a job. And then as I spoke with them on a call, they would kind of start to realize that I was passionate for it, and I'd ask about basically just opportunities within the company that they work at toward the end of the call. And a lot of times they'd offer like, hey, we're actually hiring interns, I could probably tell the recruiter about you, since they already know that you're someone who is passionate and someone who's actually like wants to do stuff with them, and that's how I landed my first role. I actually just called them. I called the front desk and asked to speak to. I figured out the lead mechanical engineer's name and just asked to speak to him, and then told him my resume basically just over the phone, and then he got my email and I got an interview that way. The
Yeah.
next question is what technical. This is from a mechanical engineering student. What technical skills should I focus on outside of university courses to stay competitive in the industry?
Hmm. Outside of core classes,
Yeah, basically just outside of class in general, technical skills.
I would say if you could get into a machine shop and learn how to work on an actual like lathe or mill or those type of machines that do like subtractive manufacturing or additive, you can get your hands on it. Um, that definitely is competitive. Not a lot of engineers get that hand-on experience as technicians, and to be able to like as a designer, if you're able to put both worlds together, the manufacturer side and the actual design part, and understand, fit, form, and function, but actually see what it's like. Like for example, if you're manufacturing your own piece of, let's say, a rod for a shaft, and you have a keyhole, and the keyhole has to fit a certain tolerance. On your design, you might be, you know, making the tolerance so tight that actually manufacturing it comes to be either impossible or really hard to do. And it's not just it being hard to manufacture, but also cost and time. So getting your hands onto an actual machine shop and getting the understanding of the manufacturing side as a designer is beyond valuable. Um, I would also say getting into a club will help you potentially get your hands on real work. So clubs, if your school offers them, join them immediately. Not just you'll get, uh, projects under your resume, but actual hands-on experience that does count. And any at-home projects you could do yourself, I'd
Mm-hmm.
say.
I agree. And on a slightly similar note, someone who's trying to go into product design engineering, some of the from the research I've done and speaking to people in the industry, some of the technical skills that I've learned that are like very effective in making yourself stand out are very similar. Basically, just a deep knowledge of the different manufacturing techniques and their limitations. For example, you would never really be 3D printing for a company, but just as an example, 3D printing, you need to learn how specific overhangs will cause you to need supports, and supports add to print time. It adds to the filament you need, which ultimately adds to the cost of the product. And if you can learn those type of things for stuff like subtractive, additive, different kinds of stuff like injection molding, basically just all these different kinds of manufacturing techniques, especially the ones that are more geared toward whatever fields you're trying to go into. I think that helps a lot because, like you said, you need to be able to design with manufacturing in mind. And if you're just designing stuff that works on the software, but when you try to make it in real life, it ends up being either impossible or super not cost effective at all, then you're not going to be a very good engineer. And that's one of the big things that companies look for on your resume. The next question is how important is CAD expertise compared to programming or automation knowledge in mechanical engineering roles today?
So today, the way technology is advancing, I would say all three are very valuable equally as an engineer. Because I guess depending on which sense you mean programming, if it's like Python and coding like motors or sensors, etc., it depends if that's what you want to do. If you want to be a controls engineer or if you want to be a design engineer, then focus more on CAD. Um, as a mechanical engineer, your field is very broad, so you can literally do anything you want with it. You can go electrical, you can go software, you could go manufacturing, you can go design, you can go test, you can do analysis and simulation. It just depends on what you want to do. Um, at least for me, I always struggled with design. Um, so my senior design, I focused on learning how to design and getting more efficient at it. Do I use it now? No. But whenever I do see a design, when writing test plans or procedures, or figuring out how I'm going to test a fixture, knowing the design and knowing the intention behind the design and how that piece might work or would work is definitely valuable. Um, in terms of programming, I would say definitely learn C++. It's like everything for mechanical engineering. If you're gonna do, analysis, you're gonna use MATLAB in industry. Every single company uses MATLAB. You need to know how to code in C++. You need to. If you're gonna be doing anything controls wise for sensors, I'd suggest Python because it's the easiest and most companies use it. Um, and again, C++. Um, let's see. What was the rest of the question?
I think you basically answered all of it. Another question
Pretty.
that someone asked in the chat was, how do we bridge the gap between what we learned in college and actually implementing it in internships? And really quickly, I'll answer this one. I think a lot of internships, a lot of what you apply in college or what you learn in college on the earlier internships won't directly be applied in your earlier internships, but as you get to the later ones, it'll become obvious when the topics that you've learned need to be applied. Like you said earlier, when you're working with different materials, you're going to be thinking about like the thermodynamics of things and all of the more complex stuff that you've been learning throughout your engineering career. And that's why a lot of the more competitive internships will ask technical questions about, like, for example, in design, it's a lot of beam bending questions and stuff like that. And it's just to test if you have the basic intuition that you should have learned through learning the topics in school to allow you to design in a way that's realistic and that will work in the real world. And then a lot of the times you don't always have to do like everything. Like you don't have to do the simulations and the design and all this other stuff. Usually there's, or not usually, but a lot of the times there's different positions that do all these different aspects, kind of like you were saying. There's people who do more of the programming side, there's people who do more of the design side, but it'll become obvious what you need to apply in your internships. And in school, it's basically just making sure you retain and understand as much as you can.
Yeah. For example, in school, you kind of just learn the basic knowledge of pretty much everything, general understanding. So once you get your foot in the door, you're actually in the company. You can, for example, 'cause I literally talk to every single team on a daily basis, from analysis to environmental to thermal to design to systems to electrical to software. I talk to everybody. And being able to understand every single realm from electrical all the way to design, it just helps because you can have a conversation, you can understand what's going on, you can
Mm-hmm.
understand the system, and that's what school pretty much prepares you for. But once you actually get to an actual position and you're working at a company, they go into a sense when they hire you that you don't know anything. Everything you learn in college, although it is 100% useful because you're going to be seeing a lot of things that are familiar and you can understand the conversation that's going on. 100% of the things you learn as an actual engineer is on the job. Um, as much internship experience or projects you do, etc., it just becomes soft skills once you actually are working on a large project because it's a completely different one. if you do have an internship at a larger company, you get a small feel for it. But for example, owning an actual piece of a system and working it, it's completely different, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And that's when you
I've heard.
actually yeah.
I was gonna say I've heard that from a lot of people who are in the like professional full time. Like you end up having to have a lot of knowledge on stuff that you aren't specifically working on just because it's involved in the process of working with the team and being able to understand each other.
Yep.
Next question is, what's the best way to gain hands on experience if you don't have access to expensive labs or equipment? And this is also from a mechanical engineering student.
So yeah, I read this one earlier. This is probably like the trickiest question because I don't know their situation.
Mm-hmm.
I was luckily enough to be in a university that, although it was limited access, you had to be in a club to actually use certain machinery or expensive labs, etc. Um, the way I would say is there is opportunity if you can find a local university and try to apply for their research lab. That will give you access to working at their expensive lab. For example, some places like MIT and other universities like at UF in Florida, they would offer like it would be like a summer internship, quote unquote, where you get to go out there to their research lab and do research. I would highly suggest if you don't have the opportunity to have one locally, like an expensive lab, etc., do your best to try to apply to um, research at a different university,
And I know
and or
that. Oh, sorry, keep going.
yeah, I would say and or do individual projects because maybe working at a super high tech lab or expensive lab seems great on paper, but things that you do as an individual shine a lot more um, in the perspective of interview.
And I was gonna say, I know at least in the United States, I don't know if this is the case in Canada, which is where this person seems to be from according to their profile. Some libraries, like local public libraries, might have 3D printers that you can just use as a member. And so I would look into stuff like that too. And another thing is, as a mechanical, someone who's going into mechanical engineering or whatever it is that you want to go into, there's a lot of software that you can use. So, for example, as a mechanical engineering student, hands on experience doesn't always have to be physical. Like, if you are making assemblies in CAD and you're making them work in a way that is realistic to a real world situation, like you design an entire robotic arm or whatever and it articulates correctly in an assembly, you don't get quite the full experience of being able to put it together and 3D print it and everything, but it's still much better than nothing. And it's even easier if you're wanting to go into like computer science or anything like that, where it's all a lot of just programming, which you don't even need to have physical stuff for. And another thing is like an Arduino kit, which you can order these off of Amazon pretty easily, and they're not super expensive. I think they vary from like $20 to $60 depending on how much is going to be included in it. But those are probably the cheapest and most beginner, I wouldn't say cheapest, but most beginner friendly way to get into basic programming and circuits and being able to control things.
Yeah.
You got anything else, or are you ready for the next question?
We can go to the next one. I was gonna mention Arduino too.
You can keep going if you want.
Nope, we're good. You covered it.
All right. Let's see. If I can't get an engineering internship right away, what other type of work experience can still help me break into the field?
So for companies in general, work experience for them is truly just internship. Things you do on your own, like projects, etc. They see it more as like again, a side project. Things you're doing on your own. It's valuable, but they do value internships. Unfortunately, that's just how the industry is. If you're not able to get an internship immediately, um, I would say individual projects are still valuable, but I'll still push to try to talk to professors because you never know if they're doing some kind of project in the summer. I know back when I was in school, there's a lot of professors that they would do research during the summer, or they knew of professors that were at the university doing research. Um, I can easily say almost every single company that's Fortune 500 loves research. Um, I can give more detail on that later on,
Hmm.
how valuable that was.
And I would also say more than just like specific work experience is kind of like we've been touching on, just literally learning stuff on your own, whether it's through YouTube videos or courses or whatever, just learning stuff on your own and taking the initiative, at least for your first internship, will kind of show them that although you haven't had an internship before, you are actively taking the initiative to improve your skills and make yourself a more competitive candidate for this company, and that might be enough to kind of push you over the edge and actually get an interview and ultimately an offer. And another thing, kind
Yeah,
of like you've been saying, is
join the
like,
club.
yeah, join a club. And if you're not in college yet, like you've been saying before, apply to research because this summer we had I think it was a computer engineering, or he wasn't actually doing computer engineering, but he wanted to. He was a high school student. I think he was in 11th grade, and he was able to join the team and kind of first started just shadowing people and kind of just learning what it is that they're working on. And then they gave him some smaller, lower level, but still good for him tasks that he could work on and put on his resume. And he was truly contributing, even if it wasn't like a lot, he was still contributing, and he was like programming stuff that we are actually using in the lab. So, like you've been saying, just reach out to professors at different labs, especially if you have a local university, and see, because the worst that they say is no. So,
Yeah.
next question is, what habits or practices have helped you keep learning and advancing your career over time?
So at least full time, I've just been literally like networking doesn't stop in college. Networking continues even full time. I've talked to engineering leads, senior engineers, and just kind of learn what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, through meetings and just hallway conversations, even in your cubicle. Um, you might be sitting next to, a senior engineer for electrical, and you might not even be electrical. And you can go over there and talk to them, or you're literally working with them most of the time. Um, I could say you're always learning in a full time position, at least where I'm at. You literally sit next to so many different engineers and you're working on the same project with them. So you might be mechanical, but you're going to learn electrical, or you're
Mm-hmm.
going to learn software, or you're going to learn, design, just because you're working on the same thing together and you have to have knowledge of what they're doing in order to do your own job. So it just comes pretty naturally, I guess, in full time. If you want to continue broadening, I would suggest go to graduate school. Graduate school is amazing. If you do get a full time position and um, you have a different situation like myself, where you don't have a kid or a wife or a family and you're single, I 100% suggest to go straight into your master's, especially if your company does provide some kind of annual um, benefit towards paying your college. Do it. Uh, it's not going to be easy. It is difficult, but the benefits from it is you get a promotion faster. Um, you get to specialize on something related to your field, and it just gives you a whole lot more specified knowledge onto what you're doing. Like right now, I'm doing my master's in mechanical engineering. Again, another concentration in thermal fluids. And I could say through just a couple classes, I've learned so much. Um, Graduate level classes go in a lot more depth with the same classes you took in undergrad. So, for example, um, I was taking advanced classical thermodynamics, and it's day and night compared to regular thermal that you learn in your undergrad. It's far harder, but it goes into a lot of depth. So expanding your knowledge does come pretty naturally full time. But if you want to expand it even further, go to graduate school.
And I think to add on to that, in terms of just like actual habits and practices, is literally just staying curious. Like, I'm someone who watches a lot of YouTube videos, and not all of them are about engineering, but I do watch quite a bit of. Sometimes they're more entertaining than educational, but like someone building a robot dog or something. And just by watching those videos, you do kind of get to absorb information that you wouldn't know otherwise. Or like sometimes I've been working on a project and I won't know what to do, but then I'll remember this video I watched a while back where someone had a similar issue and I remember how they solved it, and that'll help me reach my own solution. And so stuff like that really does help kind of just add on to your knowledge without really having to go and study really hard. It's kind of more passive while also being like
Yeah.
kind of actually just fun watching people do those things. A question that someone
Mm-hmm.
asked in the chat is, in my country, there's very little internship guidance or support. Most of the times, interns are ignored or left without any real tasks unless it's the final year of engineering where you're required to collaborate with the company on your own project. My question is, how can someone take initiative and actually get involved in a project alongside the team instead of just waiting to be assigned something?
So that question kind of answered itself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait around. Most engineers that get hired for positions are because they take initiative. They want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
If you're there at an internship, you gotta be eager. You gotta talk. You have to go out of your way and talk to a senior level engineer. I know it's intimidating. Go out and talk to them. Be like, hey, let's say they're working on a similar task and you have questions. Go ask questions. Be interested. Be eager. Want to learn. You're gonna have a manager at the internship. Go talk to your manager. Be like, hey, I am bored. Like some of them are very cool managers. Go to them. Hey, um, I've completed my task. Can I have more work? I'm eager to learn. I want to learn more and just continue to be eager and continue to be persistent. If the company you're in, after doing that, does not give you the chance or the opportunity to learn more, then unfortunately you got an internship at a company that just does not care. I know interns at my company that have, you know, literally created a design that we use now for one of our systems. They created the whole design in their internship, and we use it now. Do you know how big that is? That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
massive for an intern.
Yeah.
It's all because they were eager and they wanted to do more. It's it's as easy as going up and having a one-on-one with your manager and saying, "Hey, you know, I need more. I want to do more," and that's it. Some managers will give you opportunity. The other ones will brush you off. Continue to pass on their Excel sheets or Word sheets for you to fill in. Um, but yeah,
All
I would
right.
say just
Someone actually requested to speak, and I'm pretty sure this is someone who has to interview for a Northrop Grumman internship soon.
very cool.
I just invited you to speak. All right. Hello.
Sorry if like there's some outside noise.
No, it's
But
okay.
so I want to ask. So yeah, currently I'm about to have an interview with Northrop Grumman, and I wanted to ask, like when going about the technical side of things, like a big thing that I'm concerned about is like there are some classes that like I have taken and some that I haven't. and I know that like some of the classes I'm taking this year, like particularly like fluid mechanics, for example, like
Mm.
I know that I will have those skills when if I were to arrive at Northrop Grumman, but like obviously I can't answer questions about that now.
Sure.
Like since I haven't taken it. So what's the best way of going about like answering that if I were to get a technical question about that? And then what would you say is like general advice that you would give me like going into this like interview?
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions.
Yeah, that's cool.
What position did you get your interview for?
Oh, what was that? What position? What was the other one?
Yeah, what position did you get your interview for?
For a vehicle engineering intern position for summer of 2026.
Is it design?
Yeah, it's design, and from what I know, it's either in one of two teams, but I don't know that yet. It would either be in structures or vehicle integration.
Okay, so when it relates to design, I would 100% say it does get a little bit technical. Know your GD and
Mm-hmm.
T, know
Mm-hmm.
your structuring curves, know your free body diagrams. You might get
Yeah.
asked that if you have a tough interview.
Okay.
Most of the time, the interviewers at Northrop are not that tough. If they're actually
Okay.
hired and they actually want to like give you the chance and they like you, it will
Okay.
be they will just ask you to run them through your resume.
Okay.
Remember, gotta answer it in STAR: situation, task, action, result. Have
Yeah.
that like the back of your hand. Know your
Yeah.
know your resume, front to back without having to
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah.
And then I would say, in the case that you do have a tough interviewer and they're asking you, GD&T, structuring curve, free body diagrams, like know it and
Okay.
know
All right.
what you're talking about and be confident when you're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
but most of the time at Northrop, like for example, my interview and most of the interviews I heard about from Northrop, they run you through the they tell you to run them through your resume, and then from there on it's just conversation.
When I run through my resume, for example, so like just to give a little bit of background on me, like I'm a rising sophomore. I go to Washington University in St. Louis. I know that my interviewer, she also goes there.
Mhm.
Or like the person who's interviewing, like she did go there. Um, and what else? Sorry, and I have had three past engineering internships. I had an internship like my this past summer at a semiconductor IP company, and then my senior year of high school and my junior year of high school, I had two other engineering internships, and then all my resume is just like club stuff and project stuff. So when
Okay.
I'm going about like answering that, is that also like in the star format and just kind of walking through like, oh, why did I do the things that I did?
Yeah. So most of the time, at least for myself, I set up my resume in a way that it was reading like the star format.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier for the interview. It's easier for yourself when you're running through it, so you don't complicate yourself.
Okay.
One of the biggest things I've noticed from people that interview, they stumble over themselves because they can't remember the big chunk of text they have in their resume.
Yeah.
So you want to simplify your resume in a way that it's like a PowerPoint. You have bullet
Okay.
points that guide you throughout your PowerPoint, but your speaking point, the information that matters is what you say.
Okay. All right.
So when you elaborate on it, again, most of it nowadays they want it pretty straight to the point. So you tell them the situation, you
Yeah.
tell them what you did, you tell them how you did it, and the result after. I would say 100% try to have some kind of quantitative result, percentage, something, because it does help. It provides
Yeah.
an actual result.
Yeah.
The thing I would say, at least for your Northrop interview, is again, be confident, be a person, don't be a robot. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
remember, you have to be likable because you're going to be working in a team, and you have to fit the team. Most of the time, people don't get hired, you know, even though they have all these interested, amazing
Yeah.
projects, etc. Just
Yeah.
because they don't know how to communicate, they don't know how to work on
Mhm.
a team, and they don't know how to be a person. So be
Okay.
personable. If she was
Yeah.
an alumni to your school, bring it up, talk about it. You
Okay. Yeah.
know,
It also shows that you did your homework.
Yeah,
yeah,
like I did a little research like about her. Like she went to my school. Like funny enough, she did like I know like I have some talking points of them. I mentioned once she did research with the professor I'm about to do research with at my school. So like I'll mention that. And then just like also I do just want to have like a whole like conversation since I know like when you can do robotic isn't good. I guess it's just like most of the questions that I asked were just between because in the past two interviews that I had when I was like interviewing for that position in the past internships, it was mainly just behavioral because like since I was a freshman, they gave me the benefit of the doubt, but I didn't really know much besides like CAM. So I was asked like CAM questions, but like nothing more. And like I know like I might be asked questions with like finite analysis, like free body diagrams, structural
what year are
analysis.
you?
So
Sorry,
what's that?
what year are you again?
I'm a rising sophomore.
Yeah, it'll still be behavioral.
Okay, all right.
And
For
But
what you could also try to do is maybe look on Glassdoor if you haven't already. I know people will
yeah,
post a lot on there about the interviews.
the,
yeah,
I'd also
I have, but
suggest um, at the end of the interview, don't be quiet if they ask you if you have additional questions. Have at
yeah,
least three good questions to ask. Know
okay,
the
I definitely
company
will. That.
culture. Know at least something that the company has done that you could
Okay,
talk about,
okay,
and just go into it. If it's vehicle integration,
I'll go ahead.
I think it's possibly um, yeah, the vehicle integration. I'm pretty sure the job description talks about it, so I don't
Yeah,
know how much
I
to
know.
talk
I
on
know
the
they gave me the location and like I did research on like what they work on in that location. I don't
yeah.
remember like the specific name of the aircraft, but it's like the E. It's like an early warning naval
Okay. Yeah.
like naval radar aircraft. So
Yes.
and like so I've like followed up on that and like what new news they've had with that, and then I guess like one like quick follow up I want to ask was um throughout like when like the interview process like kind of gets like started and I'm like having like and like I'm having should it be like when I'm answering my questions or like she's giving me like responses or whatever it may be, should I ask like follow up questions in between to make it more like a conversation, or is it just kind of like in the sense
I would,
is it or is it just like oh like hey like tell me about like a time you get to face like adversity for example, then I answer that and then it's like next question.
yeah. If their next question, then they're strict and assist.
Okay,
That happens sometimes with interviews. I'd say at the beginning, for the most part,
mhm,
just keep it star method throughout every single question. But
okay,
show some of your personality in between your start question if you know how to do that. It's a little bit tricky
yeah,
because sometimes you're so stuck in your head trying to get the start question right. Um,
yeah,
so it takes a little bit of time to do that. Um, I'd say gauge it. Every interview is different. Some want to talk, some want to get straight to the point. So you
okay,
just need to gauge it. If they want to
okay,
talk, they talk. If they want to get straight to the point, get straight to the point until it gets conversational. If it doesn't get conversational, I would say um, lock in on your start questions. Make sure they're
okay,
good. I know for a fact, based on what you told me and the amount of internships you've done, your experience is already really good. So you have a really high chance of getting a position.
okay.
The other thing
Thank you.
is it's literally a lottery pick on which interview you get.
Okay.
Uh, for the most part. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And then, so like, just to get very, you said because I know like to ask questions at the end, but you said how many I should ask, how many I should have like roughly three questions or like 3 to 5, if I
Yeah,
misheard.
I would
Okay.
say five would be too much because you might stumble, nervous trying to figure out which question to pick. I'd
Yeah.
have I'd have a solid three and ask two.
Okay.
That's what I
All right.
usually always did. Had three, ask two, or just one if it's really solid.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, hey, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. That's like all the questions I have, and like
Yeah,
I feel a little bit better like for this interview.
yeah, you'll be fine. Just be confident. Take your time when speaking. Like how you spoke right now. Take it
Yeah.
at least 10% slower in the interview, and you'll be fine.
Okay.
Like the same
All
pace
right.
that I'm speaking at now, and then
Yeah.
be confident in your experience because your experience is really, really good.
Okay.
Just be
All right.
confident in it and just know it.
Okay, will do, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Cool.
All right. Um, let's see. If anyone else wants to speak, just request to speak. Otherwise, we'll continue doing the Q&A questions. The next one is, what are some tips for converting internships to full-time offers?
So I personally do not have that experience. I'm gonna talk about one of my other friends, two of them actually. One of them, oh, they both actually work at Pratt& Whitney now. Um,
At what?
so they both at Pratt& Whitney.
Oh, mm-hmm.
They do jets, fighter jets. Um, they both worked at GE Electronics. They did like refrigerators and stuff. They were working on a project in their internship, and they were able to find this certain piece in the refrigeration that was lacking. They designed it. They helped the company save, I think it was like $3 million. Um, and they were asked for returning positions for full time. So from that experience, I could say is, can I curse on here a little bit?
Yeah.
You need to bust your ass in your internship. You need to put belt to ass and literally work harder than you ever worked before in your internship and try to stand out. Um, and that will definitely help you try to get a full time position afterwards, or at least a callback to another internship.
Mm-hmm.
Be likable within your team because the team likes you. They like working with you. They like the work you put out. They, the manager will try to get you back, 100%. Um, and obviously, try to talk to the manager as much as you can. Show your interest to wanting to come back to the company if you really like it. Um, all those things are factors that definitely help getting a return offer for sure.
All right. Awesome. Next question is, what's the starter kit of things you should learn slash get familiar with before heading into college for engineering? And this is from a mechanical engineering student.
Perfect. Skill. At least for me, when I was in high school, I had joined the robotics club and I actually had like a whole class that did robotics. I would say anything related to programming, sensors, controllers. You can literally buy an Arduino kit and do your own self project.
Mm-hmm.
You could look to see if there's like a local, robotics club and see if they do VEX. VEX is highly helpful because you have to, problem solve. You have to code. You have to design. You have to plan. All of that are valuable experiences that you can have before going into college. You never know. Maybe you join a robotics club and your university has a robotics club and they also do, VEX as well. It's, things that you can have under your belt before going into college. I would also say take your time. College is meant for you to learn, um, and I definitely would pace myself. But if you want to get ahead of the ball, get an Arduino kit, start learning how to code. It definitely helps. And also, I would say start trying to do some CAD projects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do simple stuff from YouTube, copy it, learn it, understand how the application or software works. I would suggest starting with SolidWorks because it's fairly easy and understandable. If you can get your hands on a 3D printer, you can buy by yourself, like $150 for one. Um, get one and start messing around. You're probably gonna mess up first couple prints, but eventually you'll get it, and maybe you have an idea and you decide you wanted to create that idea, design it, print it, and get it to work. Um, there's so many possibilities. You just gotta be willing to put the time and effort and get it done.
Mm-hmm. And kind of like you said, if you are in high school, like don't spend all of your time. Like enjoy your time before college because you will get incredibly busy, especially if you're someone who's doing a lot to progress their career and just a lot in
Yeah,
general. So also just enjoy the time that you have before college.
yeah.
Um, I'm gonna read the next two questions, but we're not gonna answer them because you kind of answered it in the one you just did right now. But just for whoever asked it, so that they know it's here. They asked
So,
what's something you should buy to get started in mechanical engineering kit or application. I would say, like you said, an Arduino kit. If you can on Amazon, get the off-brand ones like Eligu or Eligu. I forgot what it's called, but all the off-brand
uh,
kits are cheaper and they do the exact same thing. And then you don't have to pay for like SolidWorks at $60 a year for the student license, but you could also just get Fusion 360 or any of those basic CAD software. Um, and then they said, "What did you do in high school to prepare for university and college?" And you kind of answer that with basically just what should you do, like join robotics club, join any clubs that you
yeah,
can, start trying to learn stuff in your free time if you can.
yeah.
Um, Next question. I'm going to answer this one just because it's a question that I get a lot and I want to say something really quick. Someone said, "What
Before we,
projects for mechanical engineering should I do from easiest to hardest?" And I
Mhm.
get this question a lot, and my advice to these people who ask this is don't ask other people for project ideas because what some person thinks is cool might not be what you think is cool. So
Yeah,
just try to, one, think of things yourself that are interesting. Like, there was this guy I know, he plays basketball for his college and he does computer science. And so he made this, like, AI that learns. I don't know the details, but basically it comes up with the best possible play given all of the stats and everything. And it ended up actually being adopted by his university. And so if he were to ask me, I would never tell him to do that because it's not something I would even think of. But it was an intersection of both of his interests, and as a result, he was willing to put a lot of time and effort into that because not only was it cool for building his skills, but it was also just something that he genuinely enjoys. And so I would suggest if you really want to just get like a list laid out to you, is go to ChatGPT or some other AI and outline your interests and the skill level of like wherever you're at right now and the skills that you have in the career field and all these different details about yourself, and then ask it to generate a list of project ideas that kind of correlate with all of those different things. And that's probably the closest you can get to a list that is catered for you specifically. But asking other people for project ideas isn't always very effective because, like I said, it's different for everyone.
yeah. We all have different passions in this field,
Mm-hmm.
um, so it all varies. You'll get a lot of different answers. Just again, piggybacking on what you said,
Mm-hmm.
find your own interest and or a problem you need to solve in your own life, and design something, make something, create, invent. Um, you'll find something eventually that speaks to you. And you'll start working on it. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty straightforward.
All right, next question. What are some tips for pivoting roles slash fields in your career when you're full time?
So I'm actually currently trying to do that. So my best advice is have a good relationship with your manager because they can open up doors for you. Um, at the beginning, orientation, you usually get a good, time with your manager, talk to them, etc. Um, I would say set up a one-on-one with your manager if you can, and just talk to them about your career goals, where you want to be, where you want to end up. Even if it's different from your current role, just let them know. And if you honestly don't want to talk to your manager, start applying for a different role. You can, go on teams and find managers in those positions, email them, talk to them, and set up a one-on-one, set up a meeting, ask them if they have any open positions, and apply. There's so many different ways you could go about this. At least for myself, um, for example, I'm a test engineer, but mostly have done systems engineering stuff since I've been. Um, so I've been enjoying systems and possibly will pivot to systems. Um, but I've been working directly under the systems engineering manager. So it's as easy as going up to them and just having a conversation, seeing if
Mm-hmm.
they have any open positions, and or speaking to your manager and trying to get tasks assigned that are more related to what you want to do.
All right. This question is it's meant for the electrical engineer who is supposed to be here, but I was wondering if you might have an answer.
Okay.
But I'm gonna read their question and then I'm gonna rephrase it into a better question. They said, "What fields do you think is worth going into after electrical engineering?" And I think a better way to ask that question is like, for you, although you're not an electrical engineer, but I know you probably know a lot of electrical engineers. What fields have you seen that seem like really interesting and like up and coming in electrical engineering? If you have an
Up and
answer.
coming digital. Hmm. I would say it depends. If you want the fence, there is control. There is sensors, stuff like that. If it's more, what's it called? Construction. There's a lot of companies where you can lay out wiring plans and stuff like that. If that's more of your interest, that's what again I was supposed to be here. Does actually he works at a construction company, does their plans for high rises. Um, so yeah, there's like many fields out there. Yeah, most of them are controls engineers. I mean, yeah, controls engineers for like Universal Studios, Disney,
Mm-hmm.
amusement parks, spacecraft, jets. You know, most jets nowadays are going to 6th gen, so it's mostly armored and unmanned. So it's mostly electrical and software.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very needed. And I know a lot of electrical engineers that switch to software. I really work with an electrical engineer that switched to software just because he's done a lot of coding as
Mm-hmm.
an electrical engineer, and he can understand GUIs and UIs and all that stuff from an electrical engineer's perspective and from knowing how to code.
Mm-hmm.
So it just really depends on what skills you have and what you can leverage.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think this circles back to our answer for people asking about projects. You can ask what field is the best, and the truth is that that is also an answer that is different for everyone. And so the real answer is to go and research it yourself and look at different fields, look at YouTube videos of like all the different fields in engineering. I know there's a few that exist, especially in electrical engineering, and just see what strikes you as interesting. Dive deeper into that, and you'll notice that there's umbrellas of like the entire umbrella of electrical engineering. There's so much under that, and then you go to controls engineering, but then there's so much under that, and then there's
yes,
so much in all these different industries that by doing research, you just open your mind to all these different fields that are possible that you didn't even know of. And that's like the real answer is you kind of have to figure it out for yourself.
yeah, most of the engineering is very broad unless it's like software and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Electrical and mechanical are such broad fields that as an electrical you can go into software. As an electrical you can go into controls. As an electrical you can do systems engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very broad and you kind of just need to find what speaks to you. For me, it was defense and space. For my friend, it was aeronautical. For another one of my buddies, he's doing nuclear warfare. Another one of my friends is working at what was it GM.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their strengths and their passions. So whatever you're passionate about, go for it. There is no better field or whatever because at the end of the day, it's whichever field you will feel satisfied going into work every day and putting in long hours and enjoying your time at work. I go into work and put in, you know, I have a 9 hour workday. I can put in 10 to 12 hours and not feel, I want to get out of work, etc.
Yeah.
I am genuinely happy day to day going into my job, sitting at my desk and doing what I need. And I always ask for more work just because I enjoy work. So you just need to find something that speaks to you on that level.
Mm-hmm. For the next question, I'm gonna answer because I kind of just did this. I'm gonna combine the question that was just asked in the chat and a question from VC questions. The one in the chat
Okay.
is When it comes to innovating personal projects, how do you go about starting them? Do you just piggyback from other projects to build skills and then make them yourself? And then the VC question is, how should I go about learning CAD and making my own projects as a high school senior planning to go into mechanical? That's a beginner to everything. If possible, I would like it as detailed as you can make it. Since both of you are going into mechanical engineering, I'll kind of just outline you what I did as someone who started my first year with no experience and went to design multiple different projects that I kind of wouldn't have thought were possible as I was starting. And the first part is just getting an idea of the specific project you want that interests you. So, like the person in the chat said, are you piggybacking off of other projects or making it yourself? You can really do either. It's not like you have to do one or the other, or you can do a little bit of both. For example, my first project was a robotic arm that I made with Arduino. And what I did was I just looked up a whole bunch of YouTube videos of robot arms because I feel like a lot of mechanical engineers think a robot arm is really cool. And I wouldn't say it's beginner friendly, but it's more beginner friendly than a lot of other projects. And I basically just made it my end goal to be able to make this on my own. And you go through a whole bunch of YouTube videos, you go through forums, like Reddit posts of people asking questions, and through that you absorb all of the knowledge. And the very cool thing about working on your own project is that, one, you have to go through the full scope of everything. You have to be the one who solders everything. You have to come up with your circuit plan. You have to design it in CAD, and then you have to program your Arduino or whatever it is that you're using to be able to control everything. And so it'll kind of point you into the direction of what you need to be learning. So the people who are like, what skills do I need to make a project? It really depends on the project, and the project will answer the question for you because you'll be making it and you'll realize, wait, I need to do this, so let me learn that part. And then the next part is kind of just starting before you feel ready. The whole point of a project is not to make something that you can already make. It's to make something that challenges you and forces you to expand your knowledge and learn new things, because that's the only way you're going to grow. And another thing is, it can be kind of like when I started my robot arm, I had a very ambitious goal of making it in a month, and the truth is that was kind of just unrealistic for me. And so don't be discouraged when it ends up being way more difficult than you think it will be, or when it ends up taking way longer, because that's just part of the process. Things very rarely go exactly as planned, especially when you're learning. And also, everything is going to be hard before it gets easy. Like, nothing in life worth having is ever easy, or else everyone would have it. And so it's just like getting over the mental block of, this is too hard, I can't do it, and just doing it and learning it yourself. There's a lot of different resources on YouTube, on like Free Code Academy or Free Code Camp, whatever it's called. All these different free resources that you can use to learn. And then another thing I do is I use ChatGPT a lot to make me like a basic roadmap. So I'll tell it, hey, I want to make a robot arm. Ask me questions one by one until you understand exactly what I'm trying to do. And then it'll ask me all these questions and I'll answer, then it'll know. And then I'll say, okay, now make me a roadmap to complete this arm in the next 6 months or something. And then it'll kind of outline it, and you don't have to follow it exactly, but it'll give you a decent idea of what you should be doing and kind of help teach you a little bit of the stuff that you might not know from the beginning. Let's see. Next question. I'll answer this one too because it's a very easy answer. What laptop do you guys recommend for mechanical engineering in college? These questions are hard to answer without you telling us your budget or anything like that. But in I think it's the Useful Resources channel, I have a full spreadsheet of different laptop recommendations for different price points. And so I just recommend checking that out and scrolling through.
And if you can't laptop, I'd recommend trying to go to your school's lab.
Mm-hmm. Or sometimes your school will offer discounts on specific laptops.
Yep.
This one you can answer. What are a list of skills you recommend for ME student to have on their resume? It's a very broad question, but...
Okay. On your resume, definitely CAD. Definitely some kind of simulation software, like ANSYS.
Mm-hmm.
I would say never include any of your courses. It's obvious that you have to take those courses. Everybody does. MATLAB, 100%. Let's see. So I covered CAD, simulation, MATLAB. Those are the three base ones.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I would say programming languages. If you're really interested in controls and stuff like that, I'd say broaden your scope on which language. It's good to master one, but it's good to also understand others because you don't know which company uses what, coding language.
Mm-hmm.
Most often used ones are Python and C++ or C. So if you know those two, you're pretty much covered. Um, let's see.
I'll very
I
quickly
would say
add
that
on for
uh,
design stuff, like kind of like what we said before, manufacturing knowledge, like learning, or you can portray this through your bullet points, like DFM, design for manufacturing. Basically, just the ability to keep manufacturing in mind, and you can display this through results. Like this build was 30% more cost efficient. This build took 30% less time to create, and that's stuff that shows that you actually understand how to design for manufacturing and assembly. You can keep
yeah,
going.
I'll say perspective, additive manufacturing. I'd also say 3D printing is actually also valuable because you have the basic understanding of what manufacturing is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. I'd also add soft skills, communication, leadership, working in a team. If you speak any other languages, have that there. I wouldn't put any proficiency. Just say that you know those languages.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would also say, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You don't need to add, Microsoft Excel, Word, etc. You could just put Microsoft Office. They kind of get the gist that you know how to use, basic Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would 100% suggest anybody that's joining a design role. I know everybody loves SolidWorks. It's the easiest thing to use and it's pretty straightforward. But try to get your hands on NX. It's industry leading software for design and actually simulation. So I do some defense, and I also know in automotive. Automotive use CAD, some other software too. But if you want defense or space or aeronautical, learn NX if you want to be design. That's all they use.
And
It's
kind
not difficult.
of,
It
sorry, keep going.
translates pretty easily. So that works.
And kind of to add on to what you said about listing your courses, I think it either lists the obvious stuff, like when you show you're estimated to graduate in 2028 or something, then they know what classes you've taken because you're only a freshman. And if you do list like stuff like Calc 1, Physics 1, then all it does is kind of hurt you because then they're like, oh, this guy's only taken Calc 1 or Physics 1. So it either hurts you or it doesn't help at all to list your relevant courses on there.
Yeah.
Next question. Specifically, I'm trying to do mechatronics. What would you recommend for me learn like CAT? Or you kind of answered this already, but I don't know if
Yeah.
it's different for mechatronics.
For mechatronics, I had a buddy. I did fluids, but for mechatronics, um, no CAD, no manufacturing processes, know your materials, no, well, you're gonna learn this eventually. Um, yeah, it's mostly literally just materials and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, get familiar with C++, Arduino, um, circuit. That's pretty much the gist of mechatronics.
Yeah, and definitely
If
get
you
involved in any
to
robotics.
Arduino, yeah,
Yeah, any clubs on
it's a lot of
campus.
manufacturing materials and um, circuitry.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get your hands on an Arduino, get your hands on it, start making dynamic moving projects.
Mm-hmm. All right, that was all of the VC questions. Does anyone who's in the audience right now have any additional questions that they might want to ask? I'll give like 1 minute to see if anyone either requests to speak or sends something in VC questions. Otherwise, we'll probably just wrap it up here. Also, Juan, if there's anything that hasn't been touched on but that you do want to share, you can do that now.
Okay. Let me think.
And you don't have to. It's just like if there is anything that you want to leave everyone here with. If there's like one thing you could do or share.
So I would 100% suggest everybody to get. If you can get an internship, try to find a meaningful project, not just a copy and pasted redone project that other people have done. Something that adds value to yourself, whether it's improving um, some portion of your life or some portion of somebody else's life. A lot of companies value work and or projects that serve the people. So innovations that help masses or can help one person. A good example of that is one of the projects I did myself when I was in my undergrad. To keep the story short, uh, my dad had brain cancer. He couldn't really move after uh, his surgery and stuff and recovery. And then he had his favorite pets, which were birds, and he couldn't get up and water them every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a automatic water feeder with a gravity tank. I designed it, and I also bought all the parts and created it myself. And that's one of the projects I did and spoke about in my interview that um, meant something to me that I could be passionate about and talk about
Mm-hmm.
in my interview, and was actually very appreciated by the interviewer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like stuff like that are not just robot arm or
Yeah, like
you
stuff
know
with meaning.
plastic. Yeah, those classic projects, something that you can like the question I was asked before. What's that innovative project? How do you come up? You
Yeah.
got to find a real world problem that you want to solve
Mm-hmm.
and design it, create it, think about it, and solve it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not successful, as long as you try to actually design it, put mind to it, add the math, you know, do all things that you need to do as an engineer to try to at least get the project started,
Mm-hmm.
or even if it's not even completely functioning or realized, if it's just a design, it's still just put the thought.
And then
Um,
someone did ask a question. They said, "How important is GPA?" My understanding is that experience is generally more important, but it helps to stand out for more competitive roles. I didn't do the
yeah.
best my because of external factors first semester. Any advice?
So I would say definitely study. I don't know what your GPA is, but I can tell you from my own personal experience. I had one internship and I had three solid projects when I went to go apply for full time. My GPA was a 3.2. That's what I got. 3.2. Not a 4.0, not a 3.5, not 3.8, 3.2. So that goes to show that um, anybody can land a role. You just need to know how to sell yourself and know your own value. Um, the way that I got my position was going to a conference of 16,000 people. I would say over a couple thousand people applied to Northrop. I was one out of 99 people. I got a position with Northrop, and one out of I think it was like 10 or 12 people that got full time. So that comes to show a lot. And I read through a lot of resumes while I was at the conference of people that were trying to go for the same position as I was. I'm telling you, they had worked at Lockheed, they had worked at NASA, they worked at SpaceX, they worked at Tesla, they worked at all these big companies, had amazing resumes, 3.9s, 4.0s, 2.8s, and you know, my interview was just better, and I, I guess, outclassed them in the way I spoke and what I did. Um, I think one thing that definitely helped me at least was that in my time, I was also working part time as a store manager, and I did help oversee interviews, so I knew the mindset of an interviewer. So I guess that's kind of a cheat code.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of expected and knew the phrasing they expected and how they wanted things to be answered and what would put me over the edge to actually get hired. Um, just from doing the hiring at a retail store.
Mhm.
So I guess that's a little bit of an insight there. You don't need the best GPA, you just need valuable experience.
And I'll add on
Or
to this too because this is a question that I've also had. Like my GPA isn't like absolutely amazing. It's a 3.6 as well. And it's definitely something that I can improve. And so as someone like I ask a lot of people, I reach out to a lot of people on LinkedIn who are engineers at Google and Apple and all these companies that you would have very like have very what like very competitive internships. And what I've realized is that a lot of them have told me that the GPA is not actually what they're looking for, and it's kind of ironic because the bigger, more innovative companies, what they actually care about the most is just what you're capable of as an engineer. And I know there's someone in this, he was one of the speakers in a past call, but he has a 2.9 and he's able to land internships at NVIDIA and SpaceX. And it's because of his experience and because of how well he did in his interviews, kind of like you were saying. He basically just outshined anyone else with his experience and he outclassed them with the way that he presented himself. And so your GPA obviously it helps, but past a certain point it's not even beneficial to have like above a 3.7 because that's already good enough. A lot of companies have a clear cutoff of like 3. Like if you're below a 3, a lot of them will just throw your resume away. And so I would say if you're below a 3, then yeah, definitely try to get it up. But a lot of companies beyond their like bottom line threshold, they don't really care about your GPA anymore. And past that, it's more about everything else, like your personality, the way you are, and of course your experience and your skills.
yeah, I had seen when I was at the conference a resume with somebody that entered at NASA and all these big companies with a 4.0 in the trash. Um, so that goes to show it's not always about GPA or even your internship experience, but how well you can sell yourself. If you know how to sell yourself and you know your value, you can make it a lot further than somebody that does not know how to speak. A lot of flaws that engineers have is not being that sociable or being able to communicate their experiences
Mm-hmm.
or what they know. And that's their biggest downfall when interviewing and even doing elevator pitches to try to get in. A lot of people just do not know how to sell themselves. And that's something that I taught a couple of my friends when we went to the conference. And at the conference, they landed, I think it was like 5 of us, and combined we landed like 13 interviews. And one of them got 4 offers, the other one got 3. Like, we mostly landed our interviews
Mm-hmm.
just because I tweaked the way they spoke. One of the guys that had 4.0, the night before the conference, his elevator pitch was purely robotic,
Yeah.
and I had to down and make it seem more personable to him so he can sell himself. And he landed like 3 interviews. So it just goes to show you need to know how to sell yourself and be confident in yourself and your own experience. And if you don't have experience, be confident in your own skills and know that you're capable of doing the same thing somebody that interned at NASA or SpaceX or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think a good way to think about it is it's very similar to a college application where if you're applying to a very competitive school, a lot of people's resumes look very similar. They were all valedictory and they were all this crazy stuff. And for those schools, what makes or breaks your application is your essays. And like that's how they see like who you truly are, the true motives, the true passion behind what you're doing, or if you're only doing that stuff to get into this school. And it's like that's the exact same thing as an interview. They're seeing if you are truly the person they're looking for, or if you're someone who just does all of this experience for the sake of getting this job because they want someone who's truly passionate and truly like someone that they will get along with. And
Yeah,
then,
I know a lot of people with great GPAs that could not land an internship
hmm,
or a full-time job to save themselves.
yeah.
And I still have people hitting me up Thursday, like, hey, does your company have open position? I'm telling you, those guys were absolute whizzes in school.
Hmm.
4.0, 4.9s, 3.8s. They even had to go get a master's degree because they could not get a position. Um, I highly advocate to learn your resume, know it like the back of your hand, understand the STAR method with your eyes closed. Um, you can even go online and find what's called practice examples for interview questions and practice it with your friends.
Hmm.
In STAR method, I would say try to get your answers in a short amount of time. You don't want to ramble or elongate your answers. They do like it, be straight to the point because most of the time, at least at conferences, they do hundreds of interviews. Your interviewer probably went through like 30 people before you, and you know you need to be different and you need to be yourself. That's the biggest thing. You don't want to be like everybody else. Everybody else took the same exact classes. They know the exact same things. They know how to use the exact same software. They know how to, model and design just like you. But what separates you from everybody else? What makes you unique? Why should I hire you? That's kind of the mindset you need to have and questions you need to ask yourself. Why would you hire yourself? And that's pretty much it.
Hmm. And then I'll quickly answer this one. Someone asked, should you put your GPA on your resume? And the answer is just yes,
Yeah,
unless there's a clear cutoff, like the company says 3.0 or above. Then if you're below that, then don't include it. But otherwise, yeah, just put it on there because unless it's absolutely horrible, if you don't include it, they're gonna assume that it's absolutely horrible.
I would say the alternative, include it even if it's horrible. Um, because at the end of the day, most of these applications at conferences, you have to put it. Especially if you're applying online, you have to put your GPA.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the sections that are required. And most of the time, these bigger companies, again, most of the questions, if you have a good interviewer and actually kind of hire you, it'll be behavioral the
Mm-hmm.
entire time. The only time you have very technical questions if you're in software engineering, computer science, where the company is not hiring,
Mm-hmm.
or you're in a design role, which is a completely different, scope of things.
Yeah.
Very basic technical questions, but then again, it goes back to the because full time you're trying to hire somebody that will match the vibe of the team. You need to be, a team player, somebody that they can actually go out and have a drink with, or they can go out to lunch with, and they can come into work every single day and actually stand you. Um, most teams hire personality; they don't hire skills because you learn everything on the job, and um, that's the mindset of every single interview. They know from school you learn enough to understand. You don't learn enough to lead a position, for example.
Mm-hmm.
When you go in as an entry level engineer, you're there to relearn engineering. Pretty much it.
Yeah, and I spoke to a senior product design engineer at Google, and he said the exact same thing. Like, you might think Google, out of all places, will have a very technical, competitive interview, but he said when he interviews interns, and specifically interns, that more than their experience, he's just looking at, is this person someone who is clearly going to get along with everyone, who everyone will get along with, and who is someone who will be able to push themselves and learn for themselves. And because the truth is, they are going to teach you most of the stuff that you're going to be doing there. They just want someone who's willing to like be coachable and learn and put in the work.
And they're also looking for somebody who's not going to ask them questions every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, you have to know how to solve problems on your own.
Mm-hmm.
I highly advocate it because I've had interns work under me, and some of them were at my desk every hour, and I can tell you it gets very annoying. Um, sometimes, because sometimes they ask the same question over and over and over, and it's right in front of you. You're an engineer. Figure it out. Some people will literally look at you and be like, "Are you serious? Go back to your desk and figure it out." I'm not helping you anymore. One of the senior level engineers actually did that. Um,
Yeah, I
in
feel
my
like
team.
as an engineer, especially, you should be able to like use first principles thinking and think about like basically just like you can a lot of stuff can just be solved with Google. Like there's been a lot of questions I've been asked and a simple Google search would suffice instead of you're not annoying someone, but if you're asking them questions over and over that are very simple or that you could figure out yourself, it does get annoying.
Yeah. Um, Another thing that this generation has is ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Most of your questions really be solved in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, there's some questions that cannot be that might need more of a, you know, the whole reason we have this Q&A is to have somebody, answer those questions that ChatGPT might not be able to,
Mm-hmm.
which is personal experience. Um, but again, if you're in an internship role and you're working under an engineer, please try your best to solve it yourself. If you cannot, then ask the question, but know how to ask the question in a way that will help you. Because some engineers will give you the bare bone minimum answer that's not going to help you. So you also need to learn how to phrase your questions in a way that's going to get. For example, I had my first couple of months of being full time. I went to go ask a senior level engineer about a task I was doing. I had to ask him at least 10 times in the span of 3 days to actually get the answer I wanted. And so I learned how to ask him questions in order to get the answer I want. You get that with time of working with that person, but I highly suggest to learn how to read people in a way. It helps with your interview, so you know uh, which way your interview is going. Because you can easily get in an interview, think you're doing the STAR method immediately, but the interviewer has zero intention of lying. Um, and it's all about reading people. It's a different skill that, especially in full time, to understand when you're bothering somebody or how to ask them a question, how to approach people. Is definitely valuable. And don't ask tedious questions. Um, Try to ask questions, like I said again, that are valuable and that will help you continue your task. If you're actually very stuck, I would suggest to just blatantly tell them like, "Hey, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Am I missing something?" And then that'll help kind of guide them and understand like, "Oh, okay, this guy really has no clue what they're doing. Uh, Let me guide them in a direction." Most of the time, those senior level engineers will give you a hint, and you have to think about it at your desk for an hour, and eventually it'll click. Um,
I think it's
at least
very
from my,
similar to like talking to ChatGPT. Like if you give it a very general prompt, it's not going to give you exactly what you're looking for. And so the same way you have to kind of tell it exactly what you want it to do, you have to learn to ask people questions, and people are more complicated because everyone's different, but you need to learn, like
yeah,
you're saying, how to ask questions that they will understand and that are specific enough to get the answer that you want.
exactly. And don't be surprised if some engineers do gatekeep information. A lot of engineers that are higher levels, they got to higher levels because they gatekeep information and knowledge to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say try to find an engineer that's willing to teach. Not all senior level engineers, but willing to teach. Um, Find that one person that's willing to not hold your hand through the process, but give you enough hints to guide you and want you to expand your knowledge and expand your skills and become a better in in real life full time positions. You will find a lot of high level engineers that will keep information and in a way, purposefully try to hold you back because that's just, I guess, the way they learn to get to their position. Don't be surprised. Fairly common. But on the other hand, there is engineers that will literally talk to you for 2 hours and explain things detail. So just try to find those people.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole reason why we have like this community and these calls is because these are the people who are willing to share and help everyone out to know like benefit for them. But I think
Oh,
that's unless you have anything else to say, I think that's pretty
almost
much.
another misconception. If you're getting a full time job, do not expect to make a whole lot of money out the gate. Um, Most of the time, you have the pay band on the job description. This is the hint I will give without revealing too much. Get the pay band, get the median, and subtract like 10 to 20%. That's how much you would probably get paid. It's usually lower than the median, almost everywhere. Just keep that in mind. The other thing is, um, you can, if you have previous internship experience, and or you have a second offer on your full time, you can leverage and negotiate your offers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would highly suggest everybody to try to negotiate offers if you get multiple for full time. Um, if they don't budge and it's a company you really want to go to, then that's a choice you have to make for yourself, whether you want to do it for the money or go to a company that will actually try to push you to be better than what you are.
All right, awesome. Well, I think that's pretty much it for this month's event. I really appreciate you being here, Juan.
Yep. I'm gonna talk to my buddy. Maybe we could get on in the future, but I think we got complicated with no personal stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. No problem. All right.
If you want to add on to another Q&A, just let me know.
I think I have the next couple of months like booked already, but
Cool.
I can if I ever need someone, I'll reach out.
Just one suggestion: when you get closer to conference times, like end of October,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna suggest try to do two Q&As. One for just like the same regular one, and one like conference specific for interview tips and resumes.
Mm-hmm. All right, for sure. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm gonna end the call now. I really appreciate you for being here. Bye bye.